Nurse and Millionaire's unexpected romance sparks amid long shifts and quiet struggles. Hey there, welcome back to Stories TH. Today, we're diving into a truly inspiring millionaire story, one that might just make you rethink what it means to hustle and heart. Fair warning, you might find yourself rooting for our hero so hard, you forget to blink. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Stories TH for more amazing tales. Also, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. I love seeing how far our community reaches. So, get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's get ready to be inspired by a story about courage, grit, and unexpected love. In a dimly lit break room nestled between the pediatric ward and the emergency room, May Delaney finally let her defenses slip. Her body, battered and worn after nearly 20 hours on her feet, surrendered to exhaustion without ceremony. The harsh fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow that seemed to mock her fatigue. May's navy blue scrubs were rumpled, her once tidy ponytail now slack and disheveled, and a half-eaten granola bar lay forgotten on the small table beside her. She curled into a chair, knees pulled close to her chest, her head resting heavily against the wall, as if it alone could hold her weight. The hospital's hum was a distant backdrop, paging systems blaring softly, hurried footsteps echoing down endless corridors, and the occasional murmur of urgent voices. But in this little sanctuary of temporary respite, all was still. Or so she hoped. May's eyes fluttered closed, unwilling but compelled to drift off in stolen moments, because survival meant more than pride when you were a single mother trying to hold it all together. You could almost smell the fatigue clinging to her, thick and undeniable, like damp clothes after a long day in the rain. And yet, beneath that weariness was a stubborn flame, an ember that refused to be snuffed out, no matter how many shifts or heartbreaks tried to smother it. The kind of flame only those who juggle impossible odds understand. Enter Graham Whitaker, the millionaire surgeon who thrived in the controlled silence of the hospital's late hours, a man whose reputation for precision and detachment preceded him like a shadow. Tonight, however, he was interrupted from his usual solitude. Stepping into the break room to retrieve a forgotten file, he froze in place the moment he spotted her. There was something about the vulnerability in the way she slept, messy hair cascading over her cheek, a hospital blanket draped haphazardly that made the air in the room shift. It wasn't the polished, perfectly curated image of a high-powered woman or an executive spouse. No, this was something raw and unvarnished, the kind of sight that stops you mid-step and makes you reconsider the walls you build around yourself. Graham's usual controlled demeanor cracked just slightly as he cleared his throat softly, careful not to startle her. When May's eyes flew open, disoriented and wide with the sharp inhale of surprise, their gazes locked. It was a moment pregnant with unspoken words, tiredness meeting curiosity, exhaustion meeting recognition. "I didn't mean to fall asleep," she stammered, voice rough with fatigue and defensiveness. "Just overworked." Graham folded his arms, brow furrowed in a mix of concern and frustration, not with her, but with a system that demanded so much from people like her. "How long have you been on your feet?" 20, maybe 22 hours, she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. He sighed, a breath heavy with disappointment for the hospital that confused resilience for burnout, for the people who never seemed to catch a break. But he didn't scold her. Instead, he did something unexpected. He moved to the coffee machine and prepared 2 cups, the bitter aroma filling the cramped room. "Drink this," he said quietly, handing her a cup without meeting her eyes. "Tastes like regret, but it's hot." May blinked, taken aback by the gesture. She accepted it cautiously, as if unsure whether this was kindness or a prelude to reprimand. But as she sipped the bitter coffee, something softened in the space between them. No longer just doctor and nurse, or millionaire and single mom, but 2 weary souls navigating a relentless world. Graham's gaze softened, and he spoke of things that mattered the charts May had kept, the life she saved with her quick thinking, and even the drawings taped inside her locker, evidence of a little girl named Ruby, whose world revolved around a mother who never gave up. It was a side of May that few saw, a story etched in quiet sacrifice. "Why are you here, doctor?" "Whitaker?" she asked, curiosity edging out fatigue. "Because work became easier than sleep," he answered simply, his voice low and steady. The room held its breath in silence. The offer was both an honor and a minefield. "I appreciate that," she said cautiously, "but it feels like a test." Dean smiled knowingly. "Sometimes it is, but if you're ready to step into the spotlight, it's yours." That spotlight first truly hit during a gala hosted by the Whitaker Foundation, held at an elegant yacht club overlooking the city's shimmering waterfront. May, clad in a navy gown tailored just for her, felt the weight of every gaze as she stepped through the grand doors. The air smelled of polished wood and delicate florals, a stark contrast to the chaos of the ER floors she knew so well. Graham was waiting at the far end, tuxedo impeccable, but when his eyes found hers, the world narrowed to just the two of them. He approached with quiet confidence, offering his arm. "May I?" he asked. It wasn't just a dance, it was a declaration. Against a backdrop of whispered speculation, May moved gracefully, shedding layers of doubt with every step. She was no longer invisible, and for the first time, she dared to own the room. But with visibility came scrutiny. Back at the hospital, gossip swirled faster than patient charts. Colleagues questioned her rise, attributing it to favoritism rather than merit. It stung deeply, years of hard work reduced to whispered assumptions, yet May refused to shrink back. "Do they believe I earned any of this?" she asked Graham one night, voice raw. "No," he said firmly. "But they will. You just have to keep showing them who you are." Their partnership grew stronger, grounded in respect and shared dreams. Graham wasn't just a benefactor. He was an ally, someone who challenged her to be more and shielded her when the hospital's politics turned cold. Together, they launched the Delaney Family Health Fund, an initiative named in her honor that focused on providing support for patients who often fell through the cracks: transportation, nutrition, mental health counseling. It was a testament to May's vision and tenacity. And through it all, there was Ruby, her bright, observant daughter, whose innocence brought light to the darkest days. Ruby's drawings, her quiet wisdom, reminded May why she fought so hard. "I think I'm just figuring out how to be seen again," May confessed one evening. That struggle between fear and hope, between wanting to protect her heart and daring to open it, defined the new chapter unfolding for both May and Graham. Their story wasn't just about love across social divides, it was about respect, resilience, and the courage to rewrite their own narratives. Remember that granola bar, the one abandoned in the break room? It wasn't just a snack left behind, it was a symbol of survival and vulnerability. And sometimes, in the most unexpected places, that's where love finds its footing. The hospital corridors, once a familiar maze of routine, suddenly felt charged with an electric undercurrent. May Delaney walked those halls with a new weight, the weight of visibility. She wasn't just a nurse anymore. She was a leader, a symbol, and, whether she liked it or not, a target. The whispers followed her like shadows, sharp and persistent. But it was in these challenging moments that May's true strength began to shine. One afternoon, Eva Monroe, a poised and polished doctor with a reputation as much for her clinical brilliance as her icy demeanor, approached May in the break room. Her presence commanded attention, the kind that could freeze conversations mid-sentence. "May," Eva said smoothly, voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge, "you're not just climbing. You're skipping steps. People notice." May met her gaze, unflinching. "Maybe they should ask me how." Eva smiled thinly, as if amused by the idea. "They think they already know the answer." It was a challenge wrapped in a warning, a reminder that in the hospital's elite circles, ambition was a dangerous game. But May wasn't deterred. She had fought too long to be invisible. Now, she wasn't going back. Later that night, Graham and May found themselves alone in the near-empty cafeteria. The fluorescent lights hummed softly, and the world outside the hospital's walls seemed distant. They shared a sandwich between them, passing it back and forth with a tentative ease, like teenagers sharing secrets in a dimly lit diner booth. "Eva's coming for me," May whispered, half confessing. Graham nodded, his expression steady. "She sees you as a disruption. That's what change looks like." May exhaled, the weight of that truth settling heavily. "I didn't ask to be a disruption." "No, but you are," he said softly. The moment hung between them, charged with unspoken fears and hopes. May wondered if she was in too deep, if she was risking everything for something she couldn't yet name. But Graham's steady presence was a balm, a reminder that she wasn't alone. "You're not the one drowning," he said quietly. May blinked. "What?" "You're rising. Everyone else is just trying to keep up." The offer was both an honor and a minefield. "I appreciate that," she said cautiously, "but it feels like a test." Dean smiled knowingly. "Sometimes it is, but if you're ready to step into the spotlight, it's yours." That spotlight first truly hit during a gala hosted by the Whitaker Foundation, held at an elegant yacht club overlooking the city's shimmering waterfront. May, clad in a navy gown tailored just for her, felt the weight of every gaze as she stepped through the grand doors. The air smelled of polished wood and delicate florals, a stark contrast to the chaos of the ER floors she knew so well. Graham was waiting at the far end, tuxedo impeccable, but when his eyes found hers, the world narrowed to just the two of them. He approached with quiet confidence, offering his arm. "May I?" he asked. It wasn't just a dance, it was a declaration. Against a backdrop of whispered speculation, May moved gracefully, shedding layers of doubt with every step. She was no longer invisible, and for the first time, she dared to own the room. But with visibility came scrutiny. Back at the hospital, gossip swirled faster than patient charts. Colleagues questioned her rise, attributing it to favoritism rather than merit. It stung deeply, years of hard work reduced to whispered assumptions, yet May refused to shrink back. "Do they believe I earned any of this?" she asked Graham one night, voice raw. "No," he said firmly. "But they will. You just have to keep showing them who you are." Their partnership grew stronger, grounded in respect and shared dreams. Graham wasn't just a benefactor. He was an ally, someone who challenged her to be more and shielded her when the hospital's politics turned cold. Together, they launched the Delaney Family Health Fund, an initiative named in her honor that focused on providing support for patients who often fell through the cracks: transportation, nutrition, mental health counseling. It was a testament to May's vision and tenacity. And through it all, there was Ruby, her bright, observant daughter, whose innocence brought light to the darkest days. Ruby's drawings, her quiet wisdom, reminded May why she fought so hard. "I think I'm just figuring out how to be seen again," May confessed one evening. That struggle between fear and hope, between wanting to protect her heart and daring to open it, defined the new chapter unfolding for both May and Graham. Their story wasn't just about love across social divides, it was about respect, resilience, and the courage to rewrite their own narratives. Remember that granola bar, the one abandoned in the break room? It wasn't just a snack left behind, it was a symbol of survival and vulnerability. And sometimes, in the most unexpected places, that's where love finds its footing. The hospital corridors, once a familiar maze of routine, suddenly felt charged with an electric undercurrent. May Delaney walked those halls with a new weight, the weight of visibility. She wasn't just a nurse anymore. She was a leader, a symbol, and, whether she liked it or not, a target. The whispers followed her like shadows, sharp and persistent. But it was in these challenging moments that May's true strength began to shine. One afternoon, Eva Monroe, a poised and polished doctor with a reputation as much for her clinical brilliance as her icy demeanor, approached May in the break room. Her presence commanded attention, the kind that could freeze conversations mid-sentence. "May," Eva said smoothly, voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge, "you're not just climbing. You're skipping steps. People notice." May met her gaze, unflinching. "Maybe they should ask me how." Eva smiled thinly, as if amused by the idea. "They think they already know the answer." It was a challenge wrapped in a warning, a reminder that in the hospital's elite circles, ambition was a dangerous game. But May wasn't deterred. She had fought too long to be invisible. Now, she wasn't going back. Later that night, Graham and May found themselves alone in the near-empty cafeteria. The fluorescent lights hummed softly, and the world outside the hospital's walls seemed distant. They shared a sandwich between them, passing it back and forth with a tentative ease, like teenagers sharing secrets in a dimly lit diner booth. "Eva's coming for me," May whispered, half confessing. Graham nodded, his expression steady. "She sees you as a disruption. That's what change looks like." May exhaled, the weight of that truth settling heavily. "I didn't ask to be a disruption." "No, but you are," he said softly. The moment hung between them, charged with unspoken fears and hopes. May wondered if she was in too deep, if she was risking everything for something she couldn't yet name. But Graham's steady presence was a balm, a reminder that she wasn't alone. "You're not the one drowning," he said quietly. May blinked. "What?" "You're rising. Everyone else is just trying to keep up." She smiled, a slow, reluctant curve of lips that carried the weight of countless battles. "Why do you always say the right thing?" "I don't," he admitted with a grin. "I just say the truth." Their fingers brushed lightly across the table, a small, quiet gesture that carried more meaning than words. In that simple touch was a promise of something real, something steady amid the chaos. But the hospital was never kind to those who dared to stand out. Photos from the gala and the Charleston Healthcare Summit began to circulate images of May and Graham together, their closeness sparking rumors and gossip. Headlines whispered about the power couple, shaking up hospital politics, casting doubt on May's hard-earned achievements. The quiet resilience she had cultivated was tested like never before. One morning, two nurses whispered just loud enough for her to hear. "She thinks she's management now, all because of one dance. She's got Dr. Whitaker wrapped around her finger." May's heart clenched, but she didn't falter. Instead, she faced them with quiet resolve. "Morning?" Their smiles faltered under the weight of her gaze. Later that day, Graham found her in her office, the tension in her posture unmistakable. "They think you're being handed everything," she said, voice tight. "Do you believe that?" he asked gently. "No," she replied, softer now, "but I hate that they do." He placed a report in front of her. Patient satisfaction up 17%. Family follow-through doubled in 2 weeks, all results tied to her leadership. "That's you," he said, "not just a name on a memo." May stared at the numbers, the proof of her worth, but the whispers remained a stubborn ache. "Maybe you're aiming too low," Graham said, eyes steady. "You're fighting to be accepted by people who want you to stay small." "Maybe," she whispered, "or maybe I'm afraid of being bigger than what they expect." The truth hung heavy between them. Their journey wasn't just about career milestones. It was about breaking free from invisible chains, about demanding space to be fully themselves. May's closest confidant, Patrice, reminded her of the wisdom passed down through generations. "People whisper because they're afraid of shouting. Courage is borrowed when anger fuels it." May held those words close as she faced the storm. At a critical board meeting, the hospital's leadership sought to replace her with Eva Monroe, masking it as a move for experience. But May stood firm, her voice unwavering. "No one asked me," she declared, eyes blazing, "but the families we serve have. They've responded with results, with gratitude, with trust." Graham stood beside her, unwavering. "May Delaney is essential. This program doesn't exist without her." The room fell silent, the quiet shift of truth settling in. Later, in the stillness of May's apartment, Graham arrived with a simple offering: peach pie and company. The warmth of home, the scent of baked comfort, the gentle conversation, these were the moments that grounded them. "I'm not here because I owe you," he said softly. "I'm here because I see you." May's heart, once guarded, softened. "Not a cause," she whispered. "Then what am I?" "The one I think about when I don't want to think about anything else." And so, piece by piece, their worlds intertwined, not with grand gestures or fireworks, but with steady presence and quiet courage. Remember that granola bar? Abandoned, but never forgotten. Like their journey, sometimes the smallest details carry the greatest weight. May's story was no longer about survival. It was about choosing to be seen, choosing to stand tall and choosing love on her own terms. The morning sun filtered softly through the hospital windows, casting long shadows that stretched like silent witnesses to the battles fought within. May Delaney stood outside the conference room, her fingers nervously brushing the edge of the folder she clutched. The pilot program she helped build was about to be presented, and for the first time, she felt the weight of leadership pressed down, not as a burden, but as a promise. Inside, the room buzzed with quiet anticipation. Hospital executives, nonprofit directors, and media representatives filled the rows of chairs, their eyes scanning the audience for signs of authority, confidence, or weakness. May took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the room expectant, waiting. When her name was called, she rose with measured steps, feeling the eyes follow her every move. She stood between two public health specialists, the notes in her lap suddenly feeling heavier than paper. But as she began to speak, something shifted. The nerves melted away, replaced by a clarity born from lived experience. Her voice, though catching once or twice, carried stories that statistics could never capture: the mother in the ER struggling to understand discharge instructions, the grandmother confused by pharmacy delays, the families navigating a world they were unprepared for. She spoke of listening, of empathy, of meeting people where they truly were. The room, initially stiff and formal, began to soften. Heads lifted, pens scribbled, and nods emerged like ripples in a still pond. Graham watched from the back, arms folded, but eyes never leaving her. Pride and something more flickered in his gaze: admiration, respect, and a silent promise. After the panel, May stepped onto the terrace, needing a breath of fresh air. The harbor breeze wrapped around her, carrying the scent of salt and promise. Graham approached quietly, his presence grounding her in the swirl of emotions. "You were incredible," he said softly. "I forgot some things," she admitted, cheeks flushed. "You made them feel it," he replied. Their conversation drifted to trust the fragility of opening up after years of guarding her heart. May confessed her fears, the scars left by past disappointments, and the cautious hope blossoming within her. Graham reached for her hand, a gentle gesture that spoke volumes. Not possession, not pressure, just presence. It was in these quiet moments that their connection deepened, a steady flame against the backdrop of a demanding world. But the hospital was never quiet for long. Rumors swirled faster than the tides outside, fueled by photos of gala dances and summit panels. The spotlight burned hot and unrelenting. May found herself navigating not just professional challenges, but the complex dance of public perception. Some saw her as a symbol of change, others whispered of favors and fast tracks. Patrice, ever the wise confidant, reminded her, "You didn't come this far to let whispers hold you back." May smiled, drawing strength from those words, even as doubt lingered. Then came the board meeting that threatened to unravel it all. Faced with a push to replace her with Dr. Eva Monroe, May stood her ground with fierce dignity. "This isn't just about me," she declared. "It's about the families we serve and the change we've begun." Graham's voice joined hers, calm but resolute. "Data doesn't lie. May Delaney is essential." The room fell into a heavy silence, the truth undeniable. Back at home, the warmth of family and simple comforts awaited. Ruby's laughter filled the rooms, a balm to warm spirits. The kitchen smelled of fresh-baked pie and hope. Graham's quiet presence beside May was a reminder that love could be steady and unassuming, yet powerful enough to weather any storm. "I see you," he said one evening, voice low, "not as a project, not a cause, just you." May's heart, once cautious, opened just a little more. Their journey was not about grand declarations, but about the everyday moments, shared meals, whispered fears, and the courage to be seen. In the end, it wasn't the gleam of the hospital's polished floors or the shimmer of gala chandeliers that defined their story, but the quiet strength found in a shared glance, a held hand, and a promise kept. Remember the granola bar. Left behind in a moment of exhaustion, but never forgotten, much like the beginnings of their unexpected, extraordinary connection. May Delaney's story was no longer one of survival, but of choice, choosing to stand tall, to fight for what mattered, and to embrace a love that saw her, truly saw her, for all she was. The days following the board meeting unfolded like a carefully scripted drama, complete with whispers, sideways glances, and the ever-present tension of power plays. May Delaney felt the weight of every eye in the hospital, some filled with respect, others tinged with skepticism. The hallways that once offered a semblance of sanctuary now felt like stages where every step was watched and every word measured. Yet May refused to let the noise drown her resolve. Each morning, she tightened her scrubs a little more firmly, squared her shoulders, and reminded herself why she fought so hard, not just for herself, but for Ruby, for the families who depended on her, and for the community she was determined to serve. Her partnership with Graham grew more profound, grounded in mutual respect and a shared vision that transcended the hospital's politics. Graham, once the untouchable surgeon known for his icy demeanor, was now her staunchest ally, standing beside her through whispered gossip and boardroom battles alike. One evening, as the hospital quieted and the fluorescent lights hummed a softer tune, Graham arrived at May's modest apartment, carrying a surprise and invitation wrapped in elegant cream-colored paper, embossed with gold trim. "You're invited to the Memorial Hearts Gala," he announced with a crooked smile. "Friday night, no +1. May frowned, uncertainty clouding her tired eyes. "I'm not sure I belong there." Graham's gaze softened. "You belong wherever you choose to be." The gala was a world away from the chaos of the emergency room. Soft jazz floated through the air, and chandeliers sparkled like distant stars. May, draped in a navy gown that hugged her curves without clinging, felt every gaze as she entered. But Graham was there, waiting with an outstretched arm and a quiet confidence that made the room melt away. As they danced, the space between them narrowed, filled with unspoken promises and the electricity of newfound hope. May caught herself smiling genuinely, something she hadn't done in years, as whispers swirled around them like a gentle storm. Back at the hospital, the impact of their connection rippled through every department. Some viewed their relationship with suspicion, others with curiosity. But May chose to focus on what mattered: the pilot program, the families it served, and the community she was building. Her leadership was tested in unexpected ways. A board member's veiled warning about optics and public perception served as a reminder that in the corridors of power, appearances often outweighed substance. But May's response was firm. "I'm not here to manage perceptions. I'm here to do the work." The days blurred into late-night meetings, community outreach, and moments stolen with Ruby, who now wore her junior volunteer badge with pride. Ruby's innocent voice often cut through May's fatigue, a reminder of the stakes beyond the hospital walls. One afternoon, Patrice found May in the staff lounge, pouring a cup of coffee she didn't really want. "You've changed," Patrice said softly. "You got louder, braver." May nodded slowly. "Some folks can't handle that." "Then let them," Patrice replied. "You keep showing up. You keep fighting." Amidst the professional battles and whispered rumors, May found solace in the small victories, the thank you notes from families, the improved patient outcomes, and the quiet moments with Graham, whose steady presence was a balm to her weary soul. Their relationship wasn't defined by grand gestures, but by everyday acts of care: a text checking in when Ruby was sick, a shared sandwich in a quiet cafeteria, a hand held in the dark. One night, as rain softly tapped against the windows, Graham surprised May with a proposal and official letter creating the Delaney Family Health Fund, a donor-backed expansion of her work focused on transportation, nutrition access, and mental health support. "It's named after you," he said simply, "because you made it possible." May's eyes brimmed with tears. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to," he replied. "It's a foundation for everything that comes next." In that moment, surrounded by the quiet clutter of her home and the warmth of Ruby's presence, May realized that she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was building something lasting, a legacy, born from courage, resilience, and love. Their journey was far from over, but as they stepped into the future together, May felt a peace she hadn't known in years. Remember the granola bar, forgotten in a moment of exhaustion, yet a silent witness to the beginning of a remarkable story. one of love crossing boundaries, of strength found in vulnerability, and of a woman who refused to be invisible. May Delaney had chosen her path, and with every step, she was rewriting the narrative not just for herself, but for all those who dared to dream beyond their circumstances. And as the hospital buzzed with life and hope, two hands clasped quietly in the kitchen, promising that whatever came next, they would face it together. The early spring air carried a fresh sense of renewal, the city of Savannah basking in the gentle warmth of longer days and blooming flowers. On the hospital rooftop, May Delaney stood alone for a moment, the morning sun casting soft shadows across the stone railing. Below, the courtyard buzzed with quiet chatter as nurses, patients, and families gathered around the mobile clinic van for the official launch of the Delaney Family Health Fund. Banners fluttered gently in the breeze, and Ruby, now proudly wearing her junior volunteer badge, handed out stickers with the seriousness of a seasoned coordinator. May hadn't planned to come up here. She just needed a moment, a pause to feel the weight of everything they had fought for and built together. It was a moment that only those who had weathered storms could truly understand, the delicate balance between exhaustion and accomplishment, fear and hope. Graham appeared beside her, his sleeves casually rolled, tie loosened just slightly, a relaxed calm about him that felt like a tide steadying the shore. "I wasn't hiding," May said with a small smile. "I didn't say you were," he replied, "but I figured if I followed the quiet, I'd find you." They stood side by side, gazing out at the lively scene below, the families lined up by the mobile clinic, nurses chatting over coffee, Ruby laughing as she passed a sticker to an eager child. "They're proud of you," Graham said softly. May tilted her head, searching his face. "You mean they're proud of us?" He shook his head gently. "No, I mean you. This was your vision. I just helped put it in motion." The weight of those words settled over May like a warm embrace. For so long, she had felt invisible, a ghost moving through the hospital halls, unseen and unheard. Now, not only was she seen, but she was also listened to, respected, and celebrated. "I used to sit on the break room floor wondering if anyone saw me," she confessed quietly. "Not just noticed me, but really saw me. And now they listen when I speak." Graham's eyes softened. "That's the part no one tells you. When you finally step into your voice, it's terrifying. You can't hide in silence anymore." May turned to him, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of vulnerability and strength. "You never belonged in silence." He smiled softly. "And neither did you." The moment hung between them, fragile yet unbreakable, like the first rays of dawn after a long night. Graham pulled something small from his jacket pocket and held it out. "Don't panic," he said with a quiet grin. May stared at the small key resting in his palm. "It's not what you think," he assured her. She looked up at him, curiosity sparking. "What is it?" He stepped closer. "It's the key to my place, to our future, if you're ready." May's breath hitched. She took the key slowly, closing her fingers around it, a tangible symbol of choice, trust, and new beginnings. Below them, Ruby stood with Patrice, holding a microphone that was clearly too big for her small hands. Clearing her throat with the seriousness only a child could muster, she said, "Today is about helping people who feel invisible. My mom was invisible once, but now she's not, because she helped people even when no one helped her. So if you ever feel small, just remember my mom says the smallest things can make the biggest difference." The courtyard fell still for a heartbeat before applause erupted, filling the air with hope and celebration. May wiped a tear from her cheek as Graham's hand found hers again. "You okay?" he whispered. She nodded, her voice steady. "I think for the first time in a long time, I really am." Together, they turned back toward the hospital. Two people who had found not just each other, but the courage to face whatever came next, side by side. May's journey wasn't just a story about love between a millionaire doctor and a hardworking nurse. It was about the power of being truly seen, the strength in vulnerability, and the unwavering resolve to rewrite one's own story. And as the sun climbed higher, casting golden light over the city and the hospital she called home, May Delaney knew this was just the beginning. Remember the granola bar in the break room? Left behind in a moment of exhaustion, it was a quiet reminder that even the smallest, most overlooked moments can spark the greatest changes. May's life was no longer defined by survival. It was defined by choice. A choice to be visible, to be brave, and to love fiercely. And that made all the difference. The hospital halls buzzed with a different energy now, a mixture of anticipation and quiet tension that felt almost tangible. May Delaney's role as co-director of the Community Care Connect program had thrust her into a world she never imagined she'd navigate. Boardrooms filled with polished executives, public health panels, and the complex politics of institutional change. Today was no exception. As May entered the meeting room, she felt the familiar tightening in her chest, a blend of nerves and determination. The room was a semicircle of senior staff, hospital administrators, and influential board members, each one poised to dissect, challenge, and decide the fate of the program she had poured her heart into. Dean Carlton, ever the smooth operator, stood at the far end, his expression unreadable. Beside him was Dr. Eva Monroe, her carefully composed demeanor hiding a steely ambition. "Thank you all for gathering on short notice," Dean began, his voice polished and deliberate. "We've had significant attention around the Community Care Connect pilot, and clarity of leadership is crucial at this stage." May held her breath, bracing herself for what came next. "While Ms. Delaney's contributions have been appreciated," Dean continued, gesturing toward her, "we believe transitioning to a more experienced liaison like Dr. Monroe will provide the long-term foundation this program deserves." A murmur rippled through the room, curious, uncomfortable, but muted. May's voice rang out, steady and clear. "No one asked me. The staff, the patients, the families we serve, they've responded loudly, in numbers, letters, outcomes. This program isn't just a project, it's a lifeline. I put my name on it. I stayed late. I built relationships. I sat with grieving parents and confused caregivers while the rest of this hospital slept." The room fell into a tense silence. Then, from the doorway, came Graham's calm, firm voice. "She's not being replaced." All eyes turned as he stepped inside, radiating quiet authority. "I've reviewed the performance data. The board has access to the same numbers. May Delaney is not only qualified, she's essential. This program doesn't exist without her." Dean's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Graham's gaze met May's, a silent message of support that steadied her resolve. May spoke again, voice unwavering. "I didn't ask to be elevated. I wanted to be heard. And now that I have been, I won't be a face made comfortable for others. This hospital needs a future, and I intend to be part of building it." No applause followed, just the quiet acknowledgement of truth spoken. After the meeting dispersed, May found herself alone with Graham in the corridor. "You didn't have to come," she said softly. "I wasn't backing you," he replied gently. "I was standing beside you." Those words, simple yet profound, echoed louder than any boardroom battle. Later that evening, rain tapped softly against May's apartment windows. Inside, the warm glow of a single lamp cast gentle shadows across the room. Ruby lay curled under a blanket, her hair a tangle of curls and dreams. May moved quietly in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup she doubted either of them would finish. Her mind replayed the day, the challenges, the victories, the unyielding whispers. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Opening the door, she found Graham standing there, umbrella in one hand, a paper bag in the other. His jacket was speckled with rain, hair damp at the edges. "I know it's late," he said quietly. "I couldn't let the day end without seeing you." May stepped aside, letting him in. The familiar clutter of Home Ruby's art projects taped to the walls. A basket of laundry welcomed him like an old friend. "I brought pie," he said, lifting the bag. "Peach, a we survived kind of flavor." May smiled faintly. "You really think we survived?" Graham met her eyes. "You did more than that. You shifted the ground beneath us. They don't know it yet, but everything's different now." She turned back to the stove. "It doesn't feel different. Feels like I'm still waiting for the world to catch up." He moved closer, the heat from his jacket warming the space between them. They will, he said softly, or they'll be left behind. May stirred the soup in silence, the weight of the day settling like a tide. I didn't expect you to speak up like that, she admitted. Not in front of all of them, he said. But I watched you stand there alone, and it hit me. I'm done letting you carry all the weight while I stand in the background pretending neutrality is noble. May looked at him. You don't owe me anything, Graham. That's the thing, he said. I'm not doing this because I owe you. I'm doing it because I respect you. Because somewhere between late-night meetings and watching you dismantle an entire room with one sentence, I started caring. Her breath caught. She turned fully, wooden spoon still in hand. I don't need saving. I know. I don't want to be anyone's cause. You're not, he said softly. You're the one I think about when I don't want to think about anything else. May's fingers tightened around the spoon. And if this ruins your spotless reputation, she asked. He laughed quietly. Then it's about time I earned a new one that actually means something. Outside, the rain deepened into a steady rhythm. Ruby stirred on the couch. Mom, she whispered. May turned. I'm here, baby. Ruby rubbed her eyes, blinking at Graham. Is this dinner or a movie moment? May laughed, a short, unexpected sound. Maybe both, Ruby nodded. If there's pie, I'm staying up. May looked at Graham, eyes crinkling with something softer than uncertainty, something like peace. Pie it is, she said, and as they moved quietly to the table, careful not to disturb the fragile beauty of the moment, May felt something settle deep in her chest, not safety, but something better, belonging. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. Remember the granola bar, left behind on a break room chair, forgotten but never erased? Like every small moment that led to something extraordinary, May Delaney wasn't invisible anymore. She was seen, and that was everything. The months that followed were a whirlwind of transformation, not just for May Delaney, but for the entire hospital community. The Delaney Family Health Fund, born from quiet courage and relentless determination, became more than a program. It became a beacon of hope for patients who had long felt invisible, forgotten in the maze of medical charts and rushed consultations. May found herself stepping into roles she never imagined, speaking at conferences, leading workshops, and mentoring nurses who reminded her of her younger self. Each day brought new challenges, but also moments of profound fulfillment. The hospital halls no longer felt cold and judgmental. They began to hum with the energy of change. Her relationship with Graham deepened with the same quiet intensity that had first drawn them together. Their partnership was not without its struggles, the constant scrutiny, the balancing act between personal and professional lives, but it was rooted in respect and an unwavering commitment to support each other. One crisp autumn evening, May and Graham found themselves walking through a quiet park near the hospital, the leaves crunching beneath their feet. The world around them was alive with color and possibility, a perfect contrast to the sterile, often harsh environment they both navigated daily. I never thought I'd find this someone who sees me, May said softly, her breath visible in the cool air. Graham smiled, his eyes reflecting the golden hues of the sunset. You've always been visible to me. I just had to catch up. They paused near a bench, and for a moment, the noise of the world fell away. May glanced at him, a teasing smile tugging at her lips. You're still not much of a dancer, you know. He laughed, a sound warm and genuine. I'm learning. For you. Their hands found each other's, fingers intertwining naturally. But even as their personal lives blossomed, May remained fiercely protective of her independence and purpose. She was determined to forge a path defined by her own terms, not by the expectations or whispers of others. Her work with the Health Fund expanded, incorporating innovative programs that addressed social determinants of health transportation, nutrition, mental health, because she understood that healing extended beyond the hospital walls. Ruby thrived amidst the change, her bright eyes and creative spirit a constant reminder of why May fought so hard. One afternoon, as May sat reviewing community feedback reports, her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. Dinner tonight? Somewhere with bread and feelings? May chuckled aloud. the phrase now a shared language between them. "Absolutely," she replied. "I'll bring the appetite." Their dinners were simple but meaningful, a blend of laughter, candid conversations, and moments that felt like home. Yet, the journey was not without its moments of doubt. The pressures of leadership, the weight of public scrutiny, and the delicate balance of their relationship often tested May's resilience. In those moments, Patrice's words echoed in her mind. "You didn't come this far to lose sleep over people who wouldn't speak your name 6 months ago." May clung to that wisdom, reminding herself that true strength lay in persistence and authenticity. One evening, after a particularly long day, May stood alone on the hospital rooftop, the city lights shimmering below. She reflected on how far she'd come from the exhausted nurse, caught asleep in the break room, to the woman who now led change, challenged norms, and inspired others. Her phone buzzed, a text from Graham. "You're making the impossible look effortless. Proud of you." She smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. May typed back, "Couldn't have done it without you." As she slipped the phone into her pocket, she felt a profound sense of belonging not just to the hospital or the community she served, but to herself. The granola bar, forgotten but never lost, had become a symbol not of fatigue, but of endurance, vulnerability, and the unexpected beginnings that lead to extraordinary journeys. May Delaney's story was no longer about survival. It was about thriving, about choosing love, leadership, and life on her own terms. And as the night wrapped the city in quiet embrace, May knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready. Because this time, she was seen, and she was unstoppable. The hospital corridors no longer felt like a battlefield, but a stage where May Delaney took her place, not as an invisible nurse, but as a leader with a voice that demanded to be heard. The transformation was subtle at first, then undeniable. Nurses who once avoided eye contact now greeted her with nods of respect. Physicians who barely acknowledged her presence began to consult her opinion on patient care initiatives. The walls that had once felt like barriers slowly became bridges. One afternoon, May found herself in the staff lounge, leaning against the counter with a lukewarm cup of tea. Patrice slid into the seat across from her, eyes sharp yet warm. "You've changed," Patrice said softly. "You're louder, braver. You stopped shrinking yourself." May sighed, a tired smile tugging at her lips. "Sometimes I wonder if they can handle it." "Then let them," Patrice replied with a wink. "You keep showing up. You keep fighting." May thought of the countless late nights, the missed birthdays, the endless sacrifices, the hospital politics, the whispers, the photo from the gala that had sparked 1,000 rumors. Yet, here she was, standing taller than ever. Her partnership with Graham was her anchor. He was no longer just the brilliant surgeon with a cold exterior, but a man who had slowly let her in, revealing a depth of care that matched her own fierce dedication. One evening, after a long day of meetings and patient visits, they found themselves alone in the hospital's quiet courtyard. The sky was a deep indigo, stars faintly shimmering above. "I never expected any of this," May admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Graham smiled, reaching for her hand. "Neither did I. But sometimes the best things happen when you stop trying to control the story." Their fingers intertwined, the warmth between them a refuge from the world's demands. Yet, May's journey was far from over. The Delaney Family Health Fund continued to grow, its impact reaching deeper into the community. Transportation assistance programs helped elderly patients keep appointments. Nutrition initiatives brought fresh food to families who once faced hunger. Mental health counseling offered solace to those often overlooked. Each success was a testament to May's vision and relentless spirit. One day, while preparing for a community outreach event, May received an unexpected message from a young nurse she had mentored. "Thank you for believing in me," it read. "You showed me what it means to fight not just for patients, but for ourselves." May's eyes filled with tears. It was moments like this that made every struggle worthwhile. At home, Ruby thrived amidst the change. Her laughter filled the rooms, her art projects decorating the walls with color and hope. Ruby's innocent wisdom often caught May off guard, reminding her that even the smallest voices matter. During a family dinner, Ruby looked up and said, "Mom, you're like a superhero, but instead of a cape, you wear scrubs." May laughed, the sound genuine and light. Maybe that's even better. Their bond was a source of strength, a reminder of why May fought so hard to be seen and to create a world where others wouldn't feel invisible. But with growth came new challenges. The scrutiny intensified, the politics more intricate. Eva Monroe's presence loomed larger in the hospital's leadership circles. Her rivalry with May, a constant reminder that progress was never without resistance. One afternoon, Eva approached May in the hallway, her tone measured but firm. "You're making waves," Eva said. "Just be careful how high you swim. Not everyone appreciates change." May met her gaze without flinching. "Change is necessary, and I'm here to stay." Their exchange was brief, but charged a quiet battle of wills played out in the corridors where whispers could shape careers. Despite the tension, May remained focused, drawing on Graham's unwavering support and Patrice's sage advice. They reminded her to hold on to her vision and to trust in the power of persistence. One rainy evening, as May sat by the window watching droplets race down the glass, she reflected on her journey. From the exhausted nurse asleep in the break room to the woman standing on the precipice of change. Her phone buzzed. A message from Graham. "Remember the granola bar? Never underestimate the power of small beginnings." She smiled, the phrase now a mantra. May knew that no matter what the future held, she was ready to face it head-on, with courage, grace, and the knowledge that she was no longer invisible, because she had chosen to be seen. And in being seen, she had found herself. The morning light filtered gently through the hospital windows, casting a warm glow on the bustling corridors. May Delaney moved with a newfound grace and purpose, her footsteps steady as she navigated the familiar maze of patient rooms and nurses' stations. She had become more than just a nurse. She was a leader, a beacon of hope and resilience in a world often defined by chaos and uncertainty. That morning, May found herself preparing for an important community health summit. She was set to speak alongside renowned public health officials and hospital executives, a testament to how far she had come from the weary nurse who once collapsed in a break room chair. As she adjusted her navy blazer in the mirror, her phone buzzed with a text from Graham. "Ready to show them how a navy blue scrub queen takes the spotlight?" May chuckled softly. "Ready as I'll ever be." The summit was held in a sleek, glass-wrapped conference center overlooking the harbor. The room buzzed with the chatter of experts and advocates, each eager to share insights and strategies for improving healthcare access. May took her seat with a mixture of nerves and determination, clutching her notes tightly. When her name was called, she rose and stepped to the podium. The room fell silent, all eyes focused on her. May began by sharing stories that no report could capture: the mother, overwhelmed by discharge instructions, the elderly patient lost in a maze of appointments, the family struggling to find affordable nutrition. Her words were raw and honest, infused with the passion of someone who had lived the challenges firsthand. As she spoke, heads nodded, pens scribbled, and hearts opened. The room, once formal and distant, became a space of connection and understanding. After her presentation, May found Graham waiting near the exit, his smile warm and reassuring. "You owned that," he said quietly. May smiled, the tension easing from her shoulders. "I just told the truth." Their partnership had grown into a steady force, a quiet rebellion against the rigid hierarchies and whispered politics that had once threatened to silence her. Later that evening, May returned home to find Ruby's latest artwork taped to the refrigerator, a drawing of a nurse and a doctor standing side by side, hands linked, with the words, "Teamwork makes the dream work," scrawled beneath. Ruby beamed. "That's us, Mom." May felt a swell of pride and love. Exactly like us. Their dinners were simple: pasta, laughter, and stories of the day, but each moment was a thread weaving their lives closer together. Yet, the road wasn't without obstacles. Rumors about May's rapid rise continued to swirl. Some whispered that Graham's influence was the real reason for her success. Others questioned whether she could withstand the pressures of leadership. One afternoon, May overheard two nurses in the break room whispering just loud enough. "She thinks she's management now," one said, "all because of one dance. She's got Dr. Whitaker wrapped around her finger." May's heart tightened, but she didn't react. Instead, she walked in, smiled warmly, and greeted them both. The silence that followed was more powerful than any argument. Graham was her constant ally. In the quiet moments, he reminded her of her worth beyond rumors and politics. "Let the work speak," he said one evening, handing her a report showing a 20% increase in patient satisfaction in the pilot wards. May studied the numbers, a smile tugging at her lips. "These are our wins." "Our wins," Graham corrected gently. Together, they forged ahead, building a legacy rooted in empathy, resilience, and authenticity. One rainy night, as May watched the droplets race down her apartment window, she reflected on her journey, the exhaustion, the doubts, the triumphs. Her phone buzzed with a message from Patrice. "Remember, the smallest things can make the biggest difference." May smiled, the mantra echoing in her mind like a steady heartbeat. She was no longer invisible. She had chosen to be seen, and that choice had changed everything. The hospital was quieter than usual that morning, the steady hum of activity softened by the early hour. May Delaney moved through the halls with a calm determination, her mind buzzing with plans for the upcoming expansion of the Delaney Family Health Fund. The program was gaining momentum, its ripple effect touching families across Savannah, offering hope where there had once been despair. As she passed the nurses' station, a group of young nurses glanced her way, their expressions a mix of admiration and curiosity. May caught Patrice's eye, who gave her a subtle nod of encouragement. It was a reminder that her journey wasn't just about personal success, it was about paving the way for those who came after. Later that day, May met with a team of social workers and nurse coordinators to discuss the rollout of new community outreach initiatives. The room was filled with energy and ideas, a testament to how far the program had come since those early days when she was just a nurse caught asleep in a break room chair. Graham joined the meeting, his presence grounding and reassuring. Together, they navigated the complexities of healthcare disparities, transportation challenges, and cultural barriers that often left patients stranded. May shared stories from her shifts, families struggling to understand discharge instructions, patients missing appointments due to lack of transportation, and the silent battles fought in the shadows of the hospital. Her voice carried the weight of lived experience, and the room responded with thoughtful questions and collaborative solutions. After the meeting, May stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun. She found a quiet bench beneath an oak tree and pulled out her notebook. As she jotted down notes, her phone buzzed with a message from Ruby. "Mom, can you pick me up early? I'm not feeling well." May's heart tightened. The balancing act between work and motherhood was a constant challenge, but she had learned to navigate it with grace and grit. Graham called shortly after, offering to arrange a driver so she could leave work without worry. His thoughtfulness was a balm to her often overwhelmed spirit. That evening, at home, May cared for Ruby, who curled up on the couch under two blankets, a cold compress resting on her forehead. The pediatrician's diagnosis was reassuring, a mild virus, but May stayed close, her mind never fully at ease when it came to her daughter. As Ruby drifted off to sleep, May's phone buzzed with a text from Graham. "Need anything? Soup, groceries, distraction?" She smiled, typing back, "She's sleeping." "Thank you." The quiet moments at home were a sanctuary from the relentless pace of hospital life. May treasured them, knowing they were as vital as any shift or meeting. Days later, May was called to a board meeting that carried the weight of potential change. Rumors had swirled that Eva Monroe was being positioned to oversee May's department, a move that felt less like a promotion and more like a strategic cover-up. May entered the boardroom wearing her usual navy slacks and crisp blouse, every ounce of composure summoned to face the challenge. The room was filled with department heads, hospital administrators, and board members. Dean Carlton spoke first, his tone polite but firm. "While Ms. Delaney's contributions have been valuable, we believe transitioning leadership to Dr. Monroe will provide a more experienced foundation for the program." A murmur of discomfort rippled through the room. May's voice cut through the tension, steady and unwavering. No one asked me. The staff, the patients, the families we serve, they've responded. This program exists because of the work I've done, the relationships I've built, the late nights and sacrifices. Graham stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. I've reviewed all data. May Delaney's leadership is essential. This program wouldn't exist without her. The boardroom fell into a heavy silence, the truth undeniable. May's words echoed in her mind long after the meeting ended. I didn't ask to be elevated. I just wanted to be heard. And now that I am, I won't be a figurehead to make others comfortable. This hospital needs a future, and I intend to be part of building it. Back home, the weight of the day lifted slightly with Ruby's warm smile and Graham's quiet support. Together, they were building something real, a life, a partnership, and a legacy. The granola bar forgotten in the break room had become more than a symbol of exhaustion. It was the starting point of a journey marked by resilience, authenticity, and unwavering courage. May Delaney was no longer invisible. She was seen, and in being seen, she had found the strength to be unstoppable. The hospital corridors were alive with a new rhythm, one shaped by determination, change, and the subtle shift of power. May Delaney had become more than a nurse. She was now a symbol of resilience and leadership in a place that had once tried to keep her in the shadows. The Delaney Family Health Fund had blossomed beyond anyone's expectations. Its reach extended into neighborhoods where access to health care had long been a luxury, bringing vital resources and compassion to those most in need. May's days were a balancing act between managing the program, advocating for patients, and navigating the complex web of hospital politics. The whispers about her relationship with Graham Whitaker had not faded. If anything, they grew louder. But May had learned to shield herself with grace, letting her work and integrity speak louder than gossip. One crisp morning, May arrived early to a community center where a health fair was underway. Families lined up for screenings, nutritional counseling, and mental health support. Volunteers buzzed around with a mix of excitement and purpose. May moved through the crowd, stopping to chat with patients and staff, her presence both comforting and inspiring. She listened intently to stories of struggle and hope, making mental notes of the challenges that still needed addressing. As she engaged with a young mother worried about her child's asthma, May's phone buzzed. A message from Graham. Coffee after? I've got a new idea. She smiled, the warmth of connection steady amidst the whirlwind of responsibilities. Later that afternoon, May met Graham in the hospital cafe, a quiet corner where the hum of fluorescent lights softened. Graham's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm as he shared his vision for expanding the program's outreach to include multilingual education and transportation assistance. You inspire urgency, he said, handing her a file filled with preliminary plans. May's breath caught. We're moving fast. That's how change happens, Graham replied with a smile. Their partnership was a dance of ideas, challenges, and mutual respect. Graham's experience navigating hospital administration complemented May's deep understanding of patient needs a perfect balance. But even as they forged ahead, the hospital's undercurrents of politics remained a challenge. Eva Monroe's subtle machinations reminded May that progress was never without opposition. One afternoon, Eva cornered May near the nurses' station. You're not just climbing, Eva said, her voice measured. You're skipping steps. People notice. May met her gaze evenly. Then maybe it's time they learned something new. Her words were raw and honest, infused with the passion of someone who had lived the challenges firsthand. As she spoke, heads nodded, pens scribbled, and hearts opened. The room, once formal and distant, became a space of connection and understanding. After her presentation, May found Graham waiting near the exit, his smile warm and reassuring. You owned that, he said quietly. May smiled, the tension easing from her shoulders. I just told the truth. Their partnership had grown into a steady force, a quiet rebellion against the rigid hierarchies and whispered politics that had once threatened to silence her. Later that evening, May returned home to find Ruby's latest artwork taped to the refrigerator, a drawing of a nurse and a doctor standing side by side, hands linked, with the words, "Teamwork makes the dream work," scrawled beneath. Ruby beamed. That's us, Mom. May felt a swell of pride and love. Exactly like us. Their dinners were simple pasta, laughter, and stories of the day, but each moment was a thread weaving their lives closer together. Yet, the road wasn't without obstacles. Rumors about May's rapid rise continued to swirl. Some whispered that Graham's influence was the real reason for her success. Others questioned whether she could withstand the pressures of leadership. One afternoon, May overheard two nurses in the break room whispering just loud enough. "She thinks she's management now," one said, "all because of one dance. She's got Dr. Whitaker wrapped around her finger." May's heart tightened, but she didn't react. Instead, she walked in, smiled warmly, and greeted them both. The silence that followed was more powerful than any argument. Graham was her constant ally. In the quiet moments, he reminded her of her worth beyond rumors and politics. "Let the work speak," he said one evening, handing her a report showing a 20% increase in patient satisfaction in the pilot wards. May studied the numbers, a smile tugging at her lips. "These are our wins." "Our wins," Graham corrected gently. Together, they forged ahead, building a legacy rooted in empathy, resilience, and authenticity. One rainy night, as May watched the droplets race down her apartment window, she reflected on her journey, the exhaustion, the doubts, the triumphs. Her phone buzzed with a message from Patrice. "Remember, the smallest things can make the biggest difference." May smiled, the mantra echoing in her mind like a steady heartbeat. She was no longer invisible. She had chosen to be seen, and that choice had changed everything. The hospital was quieter than usual that morning. The steady hum of activity softened by the early hour. May Delaney moved through the halls with a calm determination, her mind buzzing with plans for the upcoming expansion of the Delaney Family Health Fund. The program was gaining momentum, its ripple effect touching families across Savannah, offering hope where there had once been despair. As she passed the nurses' station, a group of young nurses glanced her way, their expressions a mix of admiration and curiosity. May caught Patrice's eye, who gave her a subtle nod of encouragement. It was a reminder that her journey wasn't just about personal success, it was about paving the way for those who came after. Later that day, May met with a team of social workers and nurse coordinators to discuss the rollout of new community outreach initiatives. The room was filled with energy and ideas, a testament to how far the program had come since those early days when she was just a nurse caught asleep in a break room chair. Graham joined the meeting, his presence grounding and reassuring. Together, they navigated the complexities of healthcare disparities, transportation challenges, and cultural barriers that often left patients stranded. May shared stories from her shifts, families struggling to understand discharge instructions, patients missing appointments due to lack of transportation, and the silent battles fought in the shadows of the hospital. Her voice carried the weight of lived experience, and the room responded with thoughtful questions and collaborative solutions. After the meeting, May stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun. She found a quiet bench beneath an oak tree and pulled out her notebook. As she jotted down notes, her phone buzzed with a message from Ruby. "Mom, can you pick me up early? I'm not feeling well." May's heart tightened. The balancing act between work and motherhood was a constant challenge, but she had learned to navigate it with grace and grit. Graham called shortly after, offering to arrange a driver so she could leave work without worry. His thoughtfulness was a balm to her often overwhelmed spirit. That evening, at home, May cared for Ruby, who curled up on the couch under two blankets, a cold compress resting on her forehead. The pediatrician's diagnosis was reassuring, a mild virus, but May stayed close, her mind never fully at ease when it came to her daughter. May met her gaze evenly. Then maybe it's time they learned something new. Eva's smile thinned. "Be careful. This place eats ambition alive." May's response was quiet but resolute. "I'm not here to be eaten." That night, alone in the hospital garden, May reflected on her journey, the exhaustion, the doubts, the quiet victories. Her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. "Remember the woman who gave me sweet tea in med school? She told me, 'Don't get so busy saving lives you forget how to see them.' You've taught me that." May smiled, the message a steadying force. She was more than rumors, more than whispers. She was seen, and in being seen, she had found herself. The early morning light spilled gently through the hospital windows, casting long shadows down the polished corridors. May Delaney was already at her desk, poring over the latest reports from the Community Care Connect program. Her mind raced with ideas, strategies, and plans, always striving to push the program further, deeper, more impactful. Today was special. She was set to meet with donors and community leaders who held the keys to securing the next round of funding. The pressure was palpable, but May's resolve was unwavering. She remembered the granola bar left forgotten in the break room, the emblem of a moment when exhaustion almost claimed her. Now, that tiny forgotten moment was a stepping stone to where she stood, a leader fighting not just for herself, but for every patient who had ever felt unseen. As she prepared her presentation, her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. Dress sharp. They're not just investing in a program, they're investing in a vision. May smiled, grateful for his steady support. Their relationship, once quiet and tentative, had grown into a partnership defined by mutual respect and shared purpose. Later, in a sunlit conference room, May stood before the donors. She spoke not just with data, but with stories, vivid portraits of families struggling with language barriers, transportation gaps, and fragmented care. Her voice carried the weight of lived experience and deep empathy. The room listened, captivated. Questions followed, but May met each one with confidence and clarity. Afterward, a prominent donor approached her with a warm smile. "Your passion is infectious, Ms. Delaney. We're honored to support this vital work." Walking out of the building, May felt a surge of hope, proof that her hard work was bearing fruit. Back at the hospital, whispers persisted. Rumors about her relationship with Graham still floated in the air, but May had learned to navigate them with grace. One afternoon, Patrice found her in the staff lounge. "Don't let the whispers define you," Patrice advised. "You're changing the game." May nodded, feeling the truth in her words. Their friendship was a lifeline, a reminder that amidst the politics and challenges, she was never truly alone. That evening, May and Graham shared a quiet dinner at their favorite neighborhood bistro. The aroma of fresh bread and simmering herbs filled the air, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. Graham reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "You've changed this place, more than you realize." May smiled softly. "I just stopped letting fear decide my story." Their bond was a testament to the power of partnership, two souls navigating the complexities of life, work, and love. But challenges remained. Hospital politics were a constant undercurrent, and May knew that every step forward was met with resistance. One day, Eva Monroe approached her with a calculated smile. "Careful, May," she said. "Not everyone here wants you to succeed." May met her gaze steadily. "Then I'll make sure they remember why success matters." That night, May stood on the hospital rooftop, the city lights sparkling below. She felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of possibility. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ruby. "Mom, I drew you a picture. You're my hero." Tears welled in May's eyes as she replied, "You're mine, sweetheart." The granola bar, the exhaustion, the quiet moments of doubt, they all led to this. A woman choosing to be seen, to lead, to love fiercely. And as the night wrapped the city in stillness, May Delaney knew she was ready for whatever came next. Because she was no longer invisible. She was unstoppable. The hospital was alive with the buzz of change, a pulse that had begun with small ripples and now carried the momentum of a tidal wave. May Delaney had come a long way from the exhausted nurse who once collapsed in a break room chair. Now, she stood at the forefront of transformation, leading, inspiring, and challenging the status quo. That morning, May arrived early to prepare for a pivotal meeting with the hospital board. The agenda, solidifying the future of the Delaney Family Health Fund and securing support for its expansion. The stakes were high, and the room would be filled with skeptics and supporters alike. As she arranged her notes in the quiet conference room, her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. "Remember, it's not just about numbers. It's about the people behind them. You've got this." May smiled, the words a steadying force amid the nerves. When the meeting began, she stood tall, her voice clear and confident, as she presented the program's successes, improved patient outcomes, increased satisfaction scores, and meaningful community impact. But she didn't stop at statistics. She shared stories of families who had found hope and support through the fund, weaving a tapestry of real lives changed. The board listened, some nodding thoughtfully, others guarded but attentive. Afterward, a senior board member approached her with a firm handshake. "Ms. Delaney, your dedication is undeniable. We're prepared to increase funding and expand your role." Relief and pride swelled within May, tempered by the awareness that challenges still lay ahead. Outside the meeting room, whispers circulated. Some questioned her rapid rise, attributing it to Graham's influence rather than her merit. May encountered these murmurs with quiet strength. One afternoon, overhearing nurses talk in hushed tones about her relationship with Graham, she chose not to confront them with anger, but to respond through her work. Patrice found her later, offering a knowing smile. "Let them talk. You're building something real." May nodded, drawing on the wisdom of those who had walked this path before. Her partnership with Graham continued to deepen not just professionally, but personally. Their connection was a sanctuary amid the storm of hospital politics and societal expectations. One evening, as they shared a simple meal, Graham reached across the table. "You're more than the rumors, May. You're the reason this place is changing." May smiled, the warmth in his eyes a balm to her soul. "I'm learning to believe that." Their journey was a dance of trust, resilience, and shared vision, a quiet revolution born from honesty and respect. At home, Ruby's laughter and art filled the rooms with light and hope. Her daughter's innocent perspective grounded May, reminding her of why she fought so fiercely to be seen and to make a difference. During a family dinner, Ruby looked up and said, "Mom, you're like a superhero, but instead of a cape, you wear scrubs." May laughed, warmth flooding her heart. Maybe that's even better. The days rolled on, each bringing new challenges and victories. May's leadership expanded beyond the hospital walls into the community, where she championed initiatives addressing social determinants of health transportation, nutrition, mental health. One crisp autumn morning, May stood at a bustling community health fair, surrounded by families eager for screenings and support. Her heart swelled with pride as she saw the tangible impact of her work. Graham joined her, handing her a cup of coffee. "You inspire everyone around you," he said softly. May smiled, the phrase a balm to her soul. But the road ahead was never without obstacles. Eva Monroe's subtle power plays reminded May that change was a constant negotiation, a dance between progress and preservation. One afternoon, Eva approached May near the nurse's station, her tone measured. "You're not just climbing, you're skipping steps. People notice." May met her gaze evenly. "Then maybe it's time they learned something new." Eva's smile thinned. "Be careful. This place eats ambition alive." May's response was quiet but resolute. "I'm not here to be eaten." That night, alone in the hospital garden, May reflected on her journey, the exhaustion, the doubts, the quiet victories. Her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. "Remember the woman who gave me sweet tea in med school? She told me, 'Don't get so busy saving lives you forget how to see them.' You've taught me that." May smiled, the message a steadying force. She was more than rumors, more than whispers. She was seen. And in being seen, she had found herself. Morning light spilled gently into the hospital corridors, bathing the familiar spaces in a soft, golden hue. May Delaney stood at the nurse's station, her hands steady as she reviewed the latest community outreach reports. The work had grown exponentially from a modest pilot program to a foundational pillar of the hospital's mission. Each statistic on the page told a story of lives touched, families supported, and hope restored. Despite the progress, May felt the weight of responsibility pressing in. Expansion meant navigating more complex politics, balancing competing priorities, and staying true to the vision that had driven her from the start. The granola bar, once a symbol of exhaustion, now felt like a talisman, a reminder of how far she'd come. Her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. "Meeting in 10. Let's show them why this matters." She took a deep breath, straightened her blouse, and made her way to the conference room. The room was filled with hospital administrators, board members, and community leaders, each invested in the program's success, but wary of the challenges ahead. May began with the numbers: improved patient satisfaction scores, increased follow-up rates, and expanded volunteer involvement. But then she shifted to the stories: the mother who'd finally understood her son's discharge instructions thanks to a bilingual liaison, the elderly patient who kept appointments because transportation was no longer a barrier, the young family who found comfort in the mental health resources now available. Her words were vivid and personal, painting a picture that statistics alone could never capture. The room leaned in, the usual guarded skepticism replaced by genuine interest. Afterward, a board member approached, her expression softened. "Your passion is evident, Ms. Delaney. This program has changed lives." May nodded, feeling a surge of hope tempered by the knowledge that challenges remained. Back in the hospital halls, whispers persisted. The relationship between May and Graham was fodder for gossip. Some speculated about favoritism, others doubted her merit. One afternoon, overhearing nurses' murmurs, May chose to confront the issue not with anger, but with grace. She approached the break room, greeting everyone warmly, her presence a quiet but firm reminder of her place. Patrice found her later, offering a reassuring smile. "You're making waves, honey. Don't let the noise drown out your purpose." Their friendship was a lifeline, a reminder that amidst politics and rumors, May was never truly alone. That evening, at home, Ruby's laughter filled the rooms. Her daughter's artwork adorned the walls, colorful testaments to innocence and hope. Ruby's words often grounded May, reminding her why she fought so fiercely. During dinner, Ruby looked up and said, "Mom, you're a superhero, but instead of a cape, you wear scrubs." May laughed, warmth spreading through her chest. Maybe that's even better. The days ahead promised new challenges, but also new victories. May's leadership extended beyond the hospital into the community she served, addressing social determinants of health with compassion and innovation. One crisp morning, standing at a bustling health fair, May felt a swell of pride. Families lined up for screenings and support. Volunteers buzzed with energy and purpose. Graham joined her, handing her a coffee. "You inspire everyone around you," he said softly. May smiled, the phrase a balm to her soul. But she knew the road was not without obstacles. Eva Monroe's subtle tactics reminded her that change was a negotiation, a delicate dance between progress and preservation. One afternoon, Eva confronted May near the nurses' station. "You're not just climbing, you're skipping steps. People notice." May met her gaze steadily. "Then maybe it's time they learned something new." Eva's smile thinned. "Be careful. This place eats ambition alive." May's response was quiet, but firm. "I'm not here to be eaten." Later that night, alone in the hospital garden, May reflected on her journey, the exhaustion, the doubts, the quiet victories. Her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. "Remember the woman who gave me sweet tea in med school? She told me, 'Don't get so busy saving lives you forget how to see them.' You've taught me that." May smiled, the message steadying her spirit. She was more than rumors, more than whispers. She was seen. And in being seen, she had finally found herself. The hospital's heartbeat was a steady rhythm of life and healing. But for May Delaney, every beat carried the weight of a new responsibility. The Delaney Family Health Fund had grown beyond its humble beginnings, becoming a beacon of hope in a community often overlooked. Today, she was preparing for an important meeting with donors and city officials to secure funding for the next phase of the program. As she reviewed her notes in the quiet corner of the hospital cafeteria, her phone buzzed. A message from Graham. "Dress sharp. Tonight, we make the impossible look easy." May smiled, her nerves settling with the familiar comfort of his support. Their relationship, once a tentative secret, had blossomed into a quiet partnership rooted in mutual respect and shared vision. The gala was held at a grand historic venue, the air filled with soft jazz and the murmur of influential voices. May felt the weight of the event pressing on her here, She was no longer just a nurse, but a representative of a movement. Graham appeared beside her, impeccably dressed, his presence both reassuring and commanding. "You belong here," he whispered. May took a deep breath and stepped into the room, the chandeliers casting glittering light over the crowd. Eyes turned as she moved gracefully among the guests, her navy gown a quiet statement of strength and elegance. Conversations flowed, discussions of healthcare innovation, community impact, and the vital role of programs like hers. May spoke with clarity and passion, her stories of families helped and lives changed resonating deeply. Later, on the dance floor, Graham offered his hand. "May I?" he asked with a smile. She hesitated for a heartbeat, then placed her hand in his. As they moved together, the room seemed to blur, leaving only the steady beat of the music and the warmth of his gaze. In that moment, the whispers and rumors faded, replaced by something real, an unspoken understanding that transcended titles and status. The next morning, May awoke to messages of congratulations from colleagues and community members. Her visibility had grown, bringing both admiration and scrutiny. At the hospital, the atmosphere was charged. Some nurses greeted her with newfound respect. Others whispered behind closed doors. May caught Patrice's eye, who offered a knowing smile. "You shook the tree, honey. Now watch the leaves fall." The days that followed were a whirlwind of meetings, presentations, and planning sessions. May and Graham worked tirelessly, their partnership a blend of strategy and heart. One afternoon, Eva Monroe approached with a measured smile. "You're not just making waves, you're causing a storm. Be prepared for the backlash." May met her gaze evenly. "I'm ready." As the hospital navigated this new chapter, May found strength in the quiet moments, the laughter of Ruby, the support of Patrice, the steady presence of Graham. One evening, standing on the hospital rooftop, May reflected on her journey. From the exhausted nurse asleep in a break room chair to a leader inspiring change, her path had been anything but easy. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ruby. "Mom, I drew a picture of us. You're my hero." Tears welled in May's eyes as she replied, "And you're mine, sweetheart." The granola bar, the exhaustion, the whispers, they were now part of a story of resilience, courage, and love. May Delaney was no longer invisible. She was seen. She was unstoppable. The hospital's quiet moments were rare, but May Delaney treasured them, the brief pauses between shifts where she could breathe, reflect, and prepare for what lay ahead. This morning was one such moment. Standing by the window of the community liaison office, May watched the city stir to life beneath the soft glow of dawn. The Delaney Family Health Fund's banner fluttered outside, a symbol of the journey she had undertaken and the impact she was making. Her phone buzzed a message from Graham. "Ready for today?" "We're not just changing lives, we're changing the story." May smiled, feeling a swell of pride and purpose. The day was packed with meetings, strategy sessions, and calls with community partners. Each conversation reminded her of the delicate balance she maintained between advocating for patients, navigating hospital politics, and honoring her own limits. During a lunch break, Patrice found her in the staff lounge, concern softening her usual sharp gaze. "You're carrying a lot, honey. Don't forget to breathe." May nodded, the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders like a familiar cloak. Later, a surprise visit from Ruby lifted her spirits. The young girl bounded into the office, clutching a handmade card. "For you, Mom," Ruby beamed, "because you're the best." May's heart swelled as she hugged her daughter tightly. These moments grounded her, reminding her why the fight mattered. As evening fell, May and Graham met for a quiet dinner. The small neighborhood bistro, with its warm lighting and comforting aromas, was a refuge from the hospital's intensity. "You're doing more than anyone thought possible," Graham said, reaching for her hand. May smiled softly. "I'm learning that being seen means showing up, even when it's hard." Their partnership was a dance of trust and shared vision, each step bringing them closer to the future they imagined. But the path was never smooth. Eva Monroe's presence loomed a constant reminder that progress invited resistance. One afternoon, Eva confronted May near the nurses' station. "You're not just climbing, you're rewriting the rules. That unsettles people." May met her gaze steadily. Good. It's time for a new game. Eva's smile was thin but genuine. Just don't lose yourself. May's reply was quiet but firm. I'm finding myself. That night, alone on the hospital rooftop, May reflected on her journey from the exhaustion of a nurse, caught asleep in a break room chair, to a leader shaping change. Her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. Remember, sometimes the strongest people are the ones who look the most tired, but they're also the ones who keep going. May smiled, the words a steady flame in the night. She was more than exhaustion, more than whispers. She was a force, and in being seen, she had finally found her voice. The hospital corridors hummed with a quiet intensity as May Delaney moved with purpose and grace. The weight of her new role as co-director of the Delaney Family Health Fund rested lightly on her shoulders, carried not as a burden, but as a mantle of responsibility. Every step she took echoed the journey from the exhausted nurse who once fell asleep in a break room chair to a visionary leader transforming lives. That morning, May prepared for a community health summit, where she was to speak alongside medical experts and public health officials. The stakes were high, but the cause was greater: the chance to influence how healthcare reached underserved families in their own language with compassion and clarity. As she adjusted her blazer, her phone buzzed with a message from Graham. Ready to show them that navy blue scrubs can command a room? May smiled, the familiar warmth of his support steadying her nerves. Always. The summit hall was filled with a crowd of professionals, advocates, and community members. When May stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent, all eyes on her. She spoke not just of data, but of stories: the mother overwhelmed by confusing discharge papers, the grandfather lost in translation, the child whose medication was delayed by transportation issues. Her voice carried the weight of lived experience, the grit of sleepless nights, and the unyielding hope that had fueled her journey. The audience responded, heads nodded, pens scratched notes, hearts opened. After her speech, May found Graham waiting with a proud smile. You owned that room. May laughed softly. I just told the truth. Their partnership had grown beyond the hospital walls, a quiet force challenging norms and expectations. But visibility brought new challenges. Gossip swirled in the hospital corridors, whispers tying May's success to Graham's influence rather than her own merit. One afternoon, May overheard nurses whispering, "She's fast-tracked because of him. Not sure she belongs up there." May's chest tightened, but she held her head high. She chose to respond not with words, but with excellence, with relentless dedication to her patients and community. Patrice found her later, offering a comforting smile. Let them talk. You're making waves, and that means you're not just visible, you're unforgettable. That evening, as May tucked Ruby into bed, her daughter looked up with wide eyes. Mom, you're a hero to me. May's heart swelled. And you're my greatest joy. Their quiet moments together were her sanctuary, grounding her in the whirlwind of change and expectation. The road ahead was long and winding, but May was ready, because she had chosen to be seen, and that choice had made all the difference. The first light of dawn filtered softly through the hospital windows as May Delaney prepared for one of the most important days of her career. The Delaney Family Health Fund was launching its next phase, a comprehensive initiative that promised to deepen the program's impact across Savannah's underserved communities. Today was the culmination of years of grit, sacrifice, and relentless determination. May stood before the mirror in the staff locker room, smoothing the wrinkles from her navy blouse. The exhaustion of sleepless nights, the quiet fears, the whispers, none of it showed on her face. Instead, there was a calm strength reflected in her eyes, a quiet readiness to face whatever came next. Her phone buzzed softly in her hand, a message from Graham. Today, you're not just stepping forward, you're leading a movement. She smiled, heart swelling with a mixture of nerves and hope. Walking through the bustling hospital corridors, May felt the familiar hum of life patients being wheeled to appointments, nurses exchanging quick smiles, doctors deep in conversation. The hospital was both her battleground and her sanctuary. At the community center later that morning, May took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. The crowd was diverse families, Healthcare workers, volunteers, city officials, all united by a shared commitment to change. May spoke with passion and clarity, weaving stories of real people mothers who no longer feared the discharge process, elders who had found their voices, children whose futures were brighter because of the care and attention the program provided. She didn't just speak as a leader, but as a mother, a nurse, a fighter who had once been invisible and now stood firmly seen. After her speech, the applause was steady and heartfelt. Graham met her backstage with a proud smile and a gentle squeeze of her hand. But even as celebration filled the room, May knew the journey was far from over. The hospital's politics simmered beneath the surface. Eva Monroe's presence was a constant reminder that progress came with resistance. Later, in a quiet moment, Eva approached. "You've reshaped the narrative, May, but be ready, there will always be those who resist change." May met her gaze unwavering. "Then we'll keep pushing." Returning home, May found Ruby asleep, a small drawing taped to the fridge, a picture of her mother, strong and shining, standing beside a crowd of smiling faces. May's heart ached with pride and love. She knelt beside Ruby's bed and whispered, "This is just the beginning." Together with Graham, Patrice, and the community she had vowed to serve, May was building something, lasting a future where everyone had a voice, where no one was invisible. As she looked out at the city lights shimmering through her window, May felt a quiet peace settle over her. She was no longer defined by exhaustion or whispers. She was a leader, a mother, and above all, a woman who had chosen to be seen, and in doing so, had changed everything. The story of May Delaney delivers a powerful message about the strength of perseverance, courage, and the relentless effort to be seen and recognized for one's true value. In life, many adults face pressure, exhaustion, and feelings of being overlooked or underestimated. May's journey shows that no matter how difficult the circumstances, staying true to yourself, continuously striving, and demonstrating your real worth can open doors to change your life and make a positive impact on your community. The story also highlights the importance of support and companionship from loved ones, friends, or colleagues like Graham and Patrice who help us stay strong when facing challenges. Moreover, it encourages every adult to bravely step out of their comfort zone, embrace change, and not let others' opinions hold them back. Ultimately, success does not come from luck or connections, but from determination, integrity, and the continuous drive to overcome adversity. This is a valuable lesson that each of us can apply in our personal growth and professional journeys. As the story gently comes to a close, remember every journey, no matter how challenging, carries its own quiet victories. Success isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the softest whisper of resilience that keeps us moving forward. If you felt even a spark of hope or courage today, hold on to it. Life's paths may twist and turn, but you're never truly alone on the way. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to Stories TH. Don't forget to tell me where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. I love hearing from you. Until next time, take a deep breath, rest your heart, and remember you're seen, you're valued, and your story matters.